Hello, and welcome to A Novel Idea, the show where we interview authors. My name is Noelle Boc. I am your host, and we are with Gail Brenner Nastasia. How are you?
I'm good and really happy to be back.
I know. So you were our very first guest on the show, well, with me anyway, and we had a fabulous time talking about your first book, which was a memoir, and now we have part two.
Staying Clean, Living Dirty.
Which it's like one of my favorite titles. I saw the title, I'm like, this is a fantastic title. So I thought we would start with just like a little recap. If you want to just talk a little bit about your first book, like what that covered, and then like we'll get into your second book.
So as we were talking before the show, and I was telling you that my intention was initially to just write a book. I didn't have any plans to write more than one book. So I started that, and as I got further and further along, I started to realize that if I wrote it in one book, it would be a really long book. It would probably be, 900 pages. So what I ended up doing was deciding to do two books. So this was supposed to be the second and last book. The first one would cover the beginning, those early years, and then up and through law school, and then when I finally come to realize that I'm over the shame of my history, which is what we talked about on the last show.
Right.
And then this one was going to be about after I got clean and sober, because this begins with me getting clean and sober, and then it was going to carry me through the rest of the story and then into recovery, and I was going to teach about how I did that, how I got sober and what happened after that. And then I started to realize as I was writing this book that it would again be too long. I mean, it would have been a really long book. So this ended up being, and I know you've read it, it ended up being that story of, staying clean, living dirty, being clean and sober, but still behaving in the same way, engaging in the same addictive behaviors, because I hadn't yet learned how to behave in a better way, to kind of the beginning of me changing, but not really how I did it. So it gets into a little bit of what happened to cause that, and the different people I met, but then I end it where I'm just starting to change, but not really the person I am today.
Right. Good. That's a good catch up. And so in your first book, you really cover so much about your childhood and really where the addictions that you fell into start, which was pretty young. I mean, you were just a really young teenager when all of that, and and obviously you came from a background where that was what your mother was doing, and so you fell into kind of those same patterns.
Right.
So this book, you're starting out sort of like, so you do like really, it's really nice dovetail with your first book, where you were going at the end of that one, right, to get signed in, what do you call it? Signed into the bar. Like, so you're, what do you call that? You're saying?
The bar exam.
Bar exam.
Yeah.
You're the bar exam, right? Just the bar exam. I'm like, there's a word for this. I know what it is. So you kind of pick up almost the exact same spot, which I thought was good, because sometimes you're kind of like, where are we now?
Yeah, and it fills in.
Right, yes.
A lot of that.
Yeah, like a lot of that piece, and then you walk through. So, what was really powerful for me, like reading this piece, was just about, and like you kind of already touched on it, but just how hard it was that even though you finally go to rehab, you finally get clean again, and you're staying clean, which is fantastic, but your life is still a hot mess. I guess like that you need to have. It's not enough to be clean. You really have to work at your life. And I thought that was just so like watching you go through the parts that you keep having these hurdles and these problems, and I'm like, oh, I can't.
It's terrible, right?
Like,
Even
terrible.
in writing it, I mean, when I look back, it's painful to me,
Right,
because I
yeah.
know now. I mean, obviously, I had to do everything and have every experience to bring me here.
Right.
But at the same time, I really wish I didn't, because
Right.
I mean, it was painful. It was painful.
Right.
And this book especially, because the first book, well, and in writing this, and bringing it to the world, because in the first book I was young And I had been brought up this way, and well, I wouldn't say I was brought up at all, but I had grown up this way. I had had this experience. But in this book, I was an adult. So even in my own mind, I felt like I should have known better. I should have had this, I mean, as an adult who was, had gone through law school and had children and like all of these things that adults do, but I still didn't have the tools. I still didn't have the understanding of how to live life, like just how to be in the world like a normal person, because I didn't have that experience. I didn't have that teaching. I just didn't know. It was true that I didn't know.
Right. And that learning, which all of us, right, struggle when we become adults because none of us really have enough of it. I mean, we all have our issues, but it is like, and it makes me reflect on my own life, right? Like those places where you make mistakes and then you're just like, why was I so stupid? Like, why did I think that way? And so when I was reading the things that you were going through, like it was making me remember, parts of my own life where the same kind of things happened, or you go back to the same person over and over and over again. Because, but I love them, or, like, it'll work out if only.
Love will prevail. Love against, us against the world, and that whole.
And all that shtick, which is really fed to us by society, right? And movies and TV and books and everything, and they were like, yes, this must be. And like I felt like your extra pain when first got with Chris and you were kind of like, oh, this is the way I've never felt this way. This is the way things are supposed to be and the way they're supposed to feel. And then there's always a crash to that.
There was a big crash over and over and over again.
Right, and then you say to yourself, what's wrong with me? Like why am I not learning this lesson? Why do I keep going back? It's me, like that's, you take all the responsibility of the blame because I'm not lovable, or whatever. And I was feeling your pain like really strongly. It's like, oh, I remember, going through these same kind of feelings. And obviously our lives were very different, but just still that, like it's very relatable. I feel like everything that happens to you, whether or not you struggled with addiction or not, there's like so many relatable pieces.
Especially when it comes to relationships. And
right, of course, yeah.
And I really wanted to bring that truth of the situation, all the situations, because it's not something that we really hear a lot about. It's embarrassing. That's how I felt about it. It was embarrassing. I wanted people to know that, back then I wanted people to know that we were going to make it in the end, so all of that would be worth it. All of that trauma and drama would be worth it. That was my thinking, and even now I can remember feeling that way, that if we can just get past this, if we can just do this. And I know so many people, women that I work with now in recovery, who have the same experiences, going through, especially when it comes to relationships.
Right, yeah. It's just something that all of us can understand, and
And well, for me, it was another part of that addiction, which is the dirty part. Staying clean, living dirty. I was staying clean, but I was still dishonest. I was still unhappy and lonely, and all of those things that I had been. And I thought, once I get clean, once I finally can stay clean, because I had struggled, and I know you read the first book too. I had a really hard time getting to that place. Once that happens, then my life will be good. And it happened, and my life still wasn't good.
Right.
I had a husband. I never thought I'd get married. I had, I had a house. I had a car. I had everything that I thought would make me happy. And still, there I was.
So one of the things that I was kind of like, I want to dig in more into some of these places as well. So as we're when you're going through all of these parts of your life where you're like, I should be happy by now, I have all these things, I'm not happy, there's still something missing, or as there are no perfect partners, there are no perfect relationships, like everything requires work. Mm-hmm. No, all requires work. And that's just is what it is. But there's one point, and I can't remember off the top of my head now, I meant to write it down, that when you're going to go to Vancouver, and there was someone that you were going to go see. What was the name?
Eckhart Tolle.
Okay. So, and you don't end up talking about because you did go.
I did.
After all, but you don't really end up talking about him very much. Did that, because it sounded like when I'm reading the book that you had a few points where you kind of almost you were trying to like get rolling towards more of recovery, right? And less of just the staying clean. And like that one seemed like a point where you were like, I really need to go see this person because I feel like this is going to be like one of those places. But you didn't really actually talk about the trip very much too, so I kind of wanted to ask you.
Well, so, and the reason
trip.
I didn't was because I was rolling. So it wasn't really, once this happens, then everything's will be okay. Like it had to be this process. And that's really what I wanted to show in the end, was that it was this process. I was still, Chris, the character Chris, was still over here, and I was still engaging in that relationship, even though I knew I shouldn't be. But then I had all these other things over here. I was working with women in and around recovery.
Right.
I was going to 12-step meetings. I went to see Eckhart Tolle twice in Vancouver, actually, and Wayne Dyer in Hawaii. I brought my youngest daughter to see him. I mean, all different people. I was on this journey. I wanted to learn how to live. Essentially, was what I was doing. I was on this, and it was a very long journey.
Right.
So it wasn't something that happened and then, I stopped doing all those other things that were making me unhappy or causing.
So you're really trying to say this is the whole picture.
Exactly.
Because I was just that
right.
stuck out to me a little bit. I was kind of like, well, was there anything like really, momentous about that person? But no, okay.
I mean, there is. Eckhart Tolle is a phenomenal teacher. He has a lot of really good things to say. It was through him I learned about presence and how the past and future are where we spend most of our time. Like that's pretty much his thing. So there were certain things I learned from different people, and he was pivotal in that way. But he was just a piece, just like everything else. And that's really what I wanted to show, was that there's this journey, and I don't want people to think that there's one thing that's going to.
This was the thing that brought me over the edge, or whatever. Because you really. So that makes it even more interesting to me now. I mean, I do see that because you tried had different things that were successful for you throughout your process. So do you want to talk like a little bit about a few of the things that you thought like really helped you with the journey?
I think all of those things did, because they kept me involved in a community of people who were forward thinking, of people who wanted to be better, to experience life in a different kind of way. So in those ways, yes, everybody had some part, and I could go on and on and on with all the different ones, because everybody, especially when it comes to spiritual teachers. I mean, I went to Georgia. There was a You Can Do It summit with all different people. That Wayne Dyer was there too. That's where I was first. Miriam Williamson. all of the people who were spiritually grounded, like in that world. And yeah, so it took me to a different kind of place. So I wasn't in the, I don't want to say sickness, but in the negativity all the time. I was there a lot. It was my own head, so it wasn't necessarily the people I was around. But then for those moments, or for those days, or whatever it was that I was involved in those trips or journeys or whatever, I was surrounded by good people, and forward thinking and learning and changing and growing instead of.
And you had those were kind of like formative in the way that you had the glimpses of like, here's how I could be, here's a way to be able to move forward. But that there was no one thing that was like moving you, being like, this is the thing that's changed my mind, and now I'm here.
And in some ways, the fact that it took a while was the best possible way it could have been, because most of the time when I was around people who were really spiritually grounded and seemed well, just the way they lived their lives, I felt less than. I felt like I would never be like them. I had to gradually get to my own place, which is where I am now, because I'm not, and it's actually, we'll talk about it soon, what I'm going to read, but that's really what I want to read about is how my journey with that whole idea of well, God, I guess we'll say, religion. We talked about that last time I was here too.
Yeah. Because I thought that was another very powerful piece when you talk about how you've never been a prayer, and then your therapist suggested a way for you to like get in the ground with the sort of almost more planky kind of position.
Yeah.
Or
well, I put my
you put your head like that,
yeah.
and just how much of a release that was for you, and opened up like a whole new way for you to connect.
And I still pray that way.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I thought that was really interesting and really valuable that she would think, like, how about trying this different way to do this?
She was a great therapist.
Yeah, I thought, like, wow, like that's great. Like,
she's in the next book too.
She should be. She should get lots of props. Well, we're going to take a break, like you just said, so you can read a little bit from your latest book.
Okay. Chapter 7, Our Father. The aroma of coffee in the church basement makes me feel at home. I don't drink it, never have. I don't even really like the smell, but it comforts me. It reminds me of Christmas mornings when I was a kid and my family was still together, before heroin blew up our lives completely. Back then, my mother wouldn't let Chrissy, Philip, and me open our presents until she had at least a few sips of instant. It's a Sunday night, and Ronnie and I are at our regular Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, the very hall where we first met. Since leaving Bay Ridge Hospital over a year ago, I've been going almost every day, which is probably why I'm still clean. Since Alita and Jack, at 15 and 12, are old enough to take care of themselves for the hour or two we're gone, this is our date night. But that's about to change. I'm pregnant. After 2 miscarriages, one while I was still using and another a few months into my recovery, I'm going to be a mother again. And this time I'm doing it the right way, married first and then baby. Ronnie's excited too. At 45, he didn't think he'd ever be a father. Everything is falling into place. The setup of the meeting is cliché, with folding metal chairs arranged in a circle in the church's basement. So far, there are only a few people here setting up and putting out snacks. We come early because Ronnie is the treasurer for the group, and he takes his role very seriously. Chairperson Joe opens with the AA preamble before reading a passage from the Daily Reflections book. He then shares in his gruff voice, "I thank God every day for this unmerited gift. We are the chosen ones. Not everybody gets this." He then looks to his left at Rachel to signal it's her turn. It's a round-robin format. Rachel, a middle-aged woman, identifies herself before sharing similar sentiments. "The first thing I did when I woke up this morning was hit my knees and ask God to keep me away from a drink, a drug, and a cigarette. That's the way I've been doing it every day for the last 12 years, and so far it seems to be working." Several people in the room nod in agreement. A few people later, it's Shelley's turn. She's been struggling to stay sober for years. Apparently, she's been charged with drunk driving for the second time. "Now that I have to blow into this machine 3 times a day to stay out of jail, I'll have to stay sober. God is doing for me what I can't do for myself," she says. This time, some people nod while others laugh. I don't know what's so funny. Seems to me it's the court, not God, doing for Shelley what she can't do for herself, and we should give credit where credit is due. When it's my turn to share, I keep my thoughts about faith and God to myself. I don't agree with everything about these meetings, but I'm at ease in this room. For now, it's enough that these people understand me in ways most don't. They know what it's like to feel different, unworthy, and unlovable. Maybe someday, like them, I'll come to believe in this God I hear so much about, and that He, or whatever it is looking after me too. The meeting ends promptly at 9:15, and we all fold and stack the chairs before forming a circle for the Lord's Prayer. "Our Father," I recite along with the rest of them. If they are right, and He is listening, I certainly don't want Him to be mad at me. What you wanted to talk about a little bit, you said, was this whole faith piece as well. So I always had this belief that there were people who were better than me, that I was less than. And when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was 15, I was so young that I was under the impression, and I'm not completely sure that this is true for everybody, but that's how it had to be, that I had to believe in this God. I had to believe in what they believed in order to get what they had. And from what I knew, it was my only option. I didn't have any other options. It was the first time anybody had ever talked about how I felt, in these meetings. It was the first time I ever identified with people outside of my family in any kind of way, which, my family was not the best example of a family. So I had these really, I guess, mixed up ideas about the way things were. So here I am thinking, I have to believe in this thing that they believe in the way that they believe it, and I just couldn't. I could not do it. So for all these years, my only option, so I had this group of people, I had these meetings, I would go, and then as I get older, I would go in different states, and then I started to travel, I would go in different countries, and my place changed, but the idea stayed the same. I had to believe what they believed, and no matter how hard I tried, I could not do it. I wanted so badly, even, when they talked about faith and like when somebody like that person would say, God is doing for me what I can't do for myself, I wanted to believe the way they believed. I would have given anything to make that happen because I wanted to feel the way that I thought they felt. I didn't know that I didn't need to believe that in that way to feel the way that she felt, because I feel that way now. I feel completely cohesive and transparent and, in the world and of the world and with other people and connected to the, everything and everybody all the time.
The good, bad of religion, right? Because religion
Right.
can bring you a huge sense of belonging, but also on the other side, it can also make you feel completely left out if you don't subscribe to that.
Absolutely.
And so I think, being able to have, someone like yourself who can basically say, I can believe in a spiritual force kind of thing that I pray to, but not subscribe to a religion, and you can do that too and work through your recovery without feeling like I have to believe in this, I have to believe in that, or else.
Right. And that there are so many different facets of everything. So we don't have to subscribe wholly to any one thing. We can take parts of this and parts of that. So like I can be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I can be a member of, if I chose to be, a church without having to, and be part of that without having to conform completely to everything that they believe. I get to make my own choices as a person in the world.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Just briefly talk about, I know we went through our time so fast, but briefly talk a little bit about what you're doing now as far as your recovery work.
So pretty much the same stuff. I work with women one-on-one. Now I'm getting more into writing. I'm still doing recovery work with people one-on-one, but I want to reach more people at a time than the one-on-one work, because obviously that's one-on-one. So I'm doing that, but I'm also working on putting together some writing workshops for people to write memoir, because I think that's really important too. That's really how I started writing was through pain. So in that, it changed the trajectory of my life, even though I didn't plan on that being. I never planned on being an author. I just planned on being a lawyer. So yeah,
and look how far you've come, right? It's amazing
change,
right? The things that have come through in your life. And you mentioned, we were talking earlier, that you do a recovery not podcast, but a show.
Yeah, All Things Recovery. Yes, I know. I never mentioned that either. I have to do that more. We record. We did do twice a month. Now we're down to once a month for a little bit of time. We have different guests on the show. It's out of Derry Public Television. And we talk to different people in the community, people who work in recovery, or we've had the police on, we've had people on about meditation and all different medical assisted recovery, different topics.
which is also fantastic, right? It's just like this other facet of your work that you're obviously very dedicated to, which is great. So just talk a teeny bit more. We talked about it. A teeny bit more about your next book.
So the third room, that hopefully I'm about 100 pages in, so I'm working a lot. Yeah, and it's the third. I mean, it does cover some of the same ground because it's the same life, but I'm not writing it as a first person memoir. I'm writing it as a prescriptive memoir. So I only tell things about my own life as they pertain to what topic I'm talking about as far as recovery is concerned.
So it's much more of a book really about recovery and how to do recovery.
Very specific.
Yourself.
And there'll be a workbook with that.
Oh, that's great too. That's very good. Do you, if you really said you're only 100 pages in, so you...
Well, I have a method of recovery. It's called the Make Room Method. And it's 6 stages. And I didn't want to change Alcoholics Anonymous 12 steps, but I got the God part for me was really tough. Again, because I didn't... So it was a bar for me. A really high bar for me to jump over. Yeah,
and it's very important to remove some of those barriers.
Right.
Like we talk about that in the library world as well. Like what are barriers to service or barriers to people coming in and using us? And it could be something as like, oh,
the corner,
right? Or just like, oh, I owe 20 cents, fine, I can't come in. It's very interesting what things come up for different people. And so you eliminate. Oh, we don't need fines anymore, to let more people.
Are there no fines anymore?
Most libraries do not charge fines anymore.
I didn't know that.
There are still some that do, but it was, as I said, considered something that was like a barrier to service because people will literally avoid coming to the library for 50 cents. And so we still have, even though we haven't had fines in years, people will come in and they'll have something like, I'm so sorry, it's late, I owe money. And they're like, no, you don't. It's okay, you don't. If you keep it and don't bring it back, you owe us money, but
the book.
The book. You owe us the book, but you don't owe us fines. But that's very important because a lot of people don't see where those barriers are, and even just going to where even the very big value of going to a group like AA, for some people that's terrifying, right? To just be in a room with other people and feeling like you have to talk about your experience.
And most people will not say, I don't agree with this or I don't believe this, because then they're automatically putting themselves outside of the inner circle.
right, exactly. So so it's very interesting. So it's great, so I think it's great to have something that you're going to be putting out there that will allow people to jump, some of those barriers.
That is my hope.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, it has been so great having you on the show again.
I'll
Such a
come
pleasure.
back again when that's
I know. We were talking earlier. You were my very first guest, and here we are again.
So 3 years later.
We'll talk more. I know. I'm sure I'll see you again. So that's fantastic. So thank you again so much, Gail, for coming on, and thank you all for watching A Novel Idea. And please watch them. You got to go back and watch Gail's first show so that you have the context of both of our shows and both of the books. Make sure, go out there, get a hold of Staying Clean, Living Dirty. It'll be at our library. You can check it out there as well. And we'll see you next time.